What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a get to know me. I'm gonna try and keep this real quick one for you. But we do have quite a bit to talk about. Sorry, I remembered that I have a cool, I can get rid of that little note there. Alright, so we're looking at identity here, and there are quite a number of things that can go into that. And just a sort of a general list of things, and this will be in the description below, along with as many of the links as I can find for you guys to give you the ability to go and look these things up for yourself. But when it comes down to it, we've got our race, our ethnicity, our nationality. Now, ethnicity is a really fun, weird one, because it's more to do with the culture you had growing up than anything else, or like the culture that you're currently a part of. So that part of your identity can technically shift if you make a big enough move. So for instance, if you used to live in the deep south of America, but you moved to France, for instance, quite a bit of a culture shock, very different. But as you sort of get to know the area, become more immersed in that culture, that part of your ethnicity will develop, that part of your identity will develop. You can still say that you are from the deep south, that won't change, but it could all, it might have a bit of an effect on some other things that we'll get to in a second. So just to keep it simple, I haven't put ethnicity in my little, when I go through it and read all these bits out to you guys, I won't be listing my ethnicity. I will be listing my race and my nationality. Marital status is another one, and obviously with that is your sexuality, your gender identity, all of that. Your ability or disability can have a bit of an effect on your identity. Your religion or spirituality, your age, and I've specifically gone with my gender, because especially this day and age, you can get judged for the kind of generation you're a part of. So age is a part there. Political affiliation is another one. Your occupational status, especially when looking at the actual job that you do and the industry that you're in, which does actually, like the industry you're in can be different even if your job is the same as someone else in a different industry. I'll explain a little bit in a second, but that can happen. Your body type is another one. Your learning style, your social class, which is another one that I don't have. I'm pretty sure my family's like, like middle sort of working class, like with just sort of pretty average in the middle sort of thing. But all the resources I tried to use to find out exactly that case asked me my own specific things, and since I'm currently unemployed and therefore don't really have any savings or any income besides welfare, and I'm currently studying. You know, like this house is my parents', it's not mine, so I can't list that on my thing. So yeah, class is a funny one. Besides that, there's also then your personality, and there's a bunch of tests that you can do for that. Whether that be the Myers-Briggs test, the Big Five, I believe they're the Jungian ones. I believe they're the ones done by that was made up by Carl Jung, or Young, however you want to pronounce his name. Its acronym comes down to OCEAN, which I think is really cool. There's the DISC personality typings, otherwise known as the Bird test. And then other things like the Rorschach test, palmistry. There's a test called the True Colors test, which I think would be really interesting to take. Psychology is just, it's fascinating to me, because to me it's just sort of the next natural progression in trying to better understand how my brain works. And my, as we'll see in a second, all of my disabilities, all of my disorders are mental ones. Your boy's crazy. Then there's attitude is another part of your identity, your experiences, your habits, your creativity is part of that, your particular perspectives, when I can spit that out, your tastes, goals, your hobbies, and then last but not least, your passion. Now, note that I have put all the other ones as plurals, right? Experiences, habits, perspectives, but passion is singular, because I feel like it, much like favorites, you can only have one. Now, you might have a favorite food and a favorite song, but music and food are not really comparable. One's dealing with, you know, the sense of taste. One's dealing with the sense of sound. You can have a favorite movie and a favorite TV show, and even they both have a director, and they both had a writer, and they both had a cinematographer. One was designed for short form storytelling through a series, and one is supposed to be its own self-contained narrative. So those things differ. You will actually find that that's quite an up there conversation within the film community as a whole. The differences between television people and film, like you know, cinema people. So you can have a favorite of all of those things, but your one singular passion sort of is that main driving force of your life. So you can only really have one, because you can't take two paths at the same time. So let's start at the top of that list as I explained it and work our way down. As we can see, my race, and I've gone broadest I can here, is Caucasian. We are purely looking at the colour of my skin, which I will admit, with an orange light here, a white light here, and a green light behind me, is not so easy to see. Maybe we can see. Also, the fact that I've just realised I have literally the Irish colours in my room right now. Repping that ancestral heritage pride. My nationality, like I said, ethnicity I don't have in here because I think culture is a huge thing to try and tackle in a video like this. But my nationality is Australian. My marital status is I am single. I'm omnisexual, as I've mentioned before. I am also a cisgendered male. That is my gender identity. My ability or disability, like I said, they're all ones to do with the brain. But MDD, or major depressive disorder, also known as clinical depression. You can generally only say you have MDD if you've actually gotten a diagnosis. You can be depressed, right? Like you can have like general depression without a diagnosis. But if you got tablets, it's MDD. I've also got GAD, GAD, which sounds like it'd be something horrible to do with like your liver or something, but it's just generalized anxiety disorder. It is kind of the reason you'll see that I fidget with my hands a lot when I'm talking to you guys, because essentially I'm in my room with my phone on a tripod with my ring light behind it, talking to myself in the middle of the night. So yeah, a little bit of anxiety. I don't want to wake people up, but this is the only time it's quiet enough to actually record. And I also have potential ASS, which that acronym needs some work. But autism spectrum syndrome, not a great title, especially when you look at all of the things that being neurodiverse brings to the world, all the new and different perspectives that it brings, which is, it's definitely something that as I'm getting on in my years, I am noticing is something that I deal with, and that I relate a lot to, and so yeah, I am trying to get a test for that. So at the moment, that is only a potentiality. But I have a friend who has Asperger's, and he said, okay, yeah, no, I can kind of see it. Like you said that you might have it, and you have pointed out the ways that you think you have it in common. And then just when I've been around him being me, even he'd be like, okay, yeah, no, that was I can see it. So yeah, my religio-spirituality is Celtic neo-pagan. Again, repping that Irish pride. And as I've said in my spirituality videos, for me, being the neo-pagan and celebrating the holidays and the Sabbaths that I celebrate when I celebrate them is more in line with getting back to my ancestral roots than actually celebrating them according to Southern Hemisphere seasons. So it's very strongly within that heritage as well, which again goes into part of my ethnicity, which is why it's not listed here. My age, and again I did say that this was generations, so I am millennial. I'm a very late stage millennial. Makes me sound like a Cancer, honestly, though some people would agree with that. But 1994, generally the agreed upon cutoff date is 1996 or 1997. I saw one the other day that specified that millennials were all the way back to 1975. when I'm like 85, maybe 75 is Gen X to me, because 65 is definitely baby boomer. So yeah, that's me. I am a millennial, and I do in fact like having a side part, as we can see. I do enjoy my skinny jeans, and if anyone tries coming after punk rock, I will probably end them. I also have no idea what I'm doing with my life, like most millennials, so I qualify in all those areas. However, like most millennials, and I would say Gen Zers as well, progressively so, my political affiliations is left-wing egalitarian. I wouldn't go so far as to say socialist, because then you start getting the associations with communism. And look, no system is perfect, but at least with egalitarianism, we can look at it as, okay, but if everyone had equal share to the world's resources, which includes its financial resources, and therefore an equal opportunity to engage in all the opportunities that, all of the world's corporations and schools and, healthcare and all this other stuff. If everyone had an equal accessibility to that, at least then we'd be able to see where the problem really lies. But until we get that kind of a world, we'll never really know. So that's why I'm egalitarian. Because the first step to admitting you've got a first step to fixing a problem is admitting you've got one. And so if we can get everyone on equal footing, we can figure out what our problem is as humans. My occupation and industry. For this one, I put the dream one, the one that I'm currently working for, which is director-screenwriter in the film industry. Now, if I'd said entertainment industry, a director could be a stage director. It could be an event director. It could be any of these other things. Screenwriters might work in television, which, as I mentioned before, is a big conversation. And while it's not uncommon for people who work on films to also work on television and vice versa, generally television people stay with television, because as long as you can continue to make a series engaging, you've pretty much got the closest the entertainment industry as far as visual entertainment is concerned. You've got the closest to a 9-to-5 job as possible. A little bit more job security with television, whereas with a movie, you do a project, and once that project's done, you've got to essentially go and get yourself hired again. But I really want to make movies, so that's what we're aiming for. Now, I did say I would explain how the industry could be different even if the occupation is the same. Construction, for instance, right? So you could be a builder in the film industry, and then you would be building sets. Or you could be a builder in the construction industry and be building houses. That's just sort of one example that I can give you. I mean, the film industry really is sort of the industry of industries. They've got legal teams, they've got caterers, there's makeup artists, so you've got the beauty industry, builders, like I said, all sorts of tradies for like electrical. Every time it's raining, that's a sprinkler system set up, so you need plumbing for that. Yeah, it's drivers, so transport industry, a whole bunch. Obviously it goes a little bit more deeper than that as well. But yeah. Body type. Now there are technically 5 different types of build. The 3 main ones are ectomorphic, mesomorphic, and endomorphic. But you can also be ectomesomorphic or mesoendomorphic. I'll leave a link below if you need more explanation than that. But essentially, it's in relation to believe it's shoulder width as in comparison to hip width. And so meso being like in the middle, they are equal. So if you were to take the 4 points of both hips and both shoulders, my body itself is sort of a rectangle. But I actually have the qualities of both an ecto and a meso, because things like your metabolism come into it. I have a bit of an hourglass shape going on, sort of between my ribs and my waist there. There's a couple of other things that go into it, but more often than not, it's looking at your shoulders and your hips. And my chronotype, which really comes down to my sleep pattern and sort of what the best daily routine would be for me, is I am a wolf, which is really cool. I like wolves. My learning style, and I'm bringing this up because we're about to dive into some psychology, but my learning style is visual kinesthetic. So essentially, looking at something and how it's supposed to sort of be done, and then sort of what it's supposed to look like at the end helps. But if I'm also able to do it at the same time, that really helps me sort of go, okay, well, I'm gonna, the brain is not focusing. It helps me to now I'm getting things in my eyes or out of nowhere. What the hell's going on? But being able to get my hands on and do the thing helps my brain be like, okay, cool. So this is how my hands need to sort of do these things. Or like this is the movement my body should be making. So yeah. And then if it's something like, like building a bed, for instance. My bed's from Fantastic Furniture, so it's one of the ones that I have to sort of like put together myself. It's not like already made and just brought in by some movers. Having the instructions there to be able to be like, okay, so I need that bit, and that bit, cool, and then that goes in there, and then being able to have like a reference point for like what to do, that's a visual, while also being able to do it. Then once I've done it once, I'm like, okay, cool, and I know it's going to be the same on the other side because beds generally, sort of do this bit on both sides, sort of a thing. They're mirror image of each other. And then the last one that I've got on this particular device was class, which is a weird one. I think my family is middle class, I believe. We're sort of whatever that big majority one in the middle is. I'm pretty sure. We move on to personality. Now, like I said, there's a whole bunch bunch of personality tests out there. Everything from just who are you generally as a person to specifically what is your working style, to does this look like a butterfly or two wolves howling at the moon. We're going to look at sort of the three big ones, at least as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, the big one is the Myers-Briggs test, which most people will know if they're, you know, an ISTP, an ENFJ, any permutation of those letters. I am ENFJ, dash T. They've added the dash T in to try and make it a little bit more reliable of a test, because there was one part that the Myers-Briggs test was not testing for that the Big Five does test for. So they tried adding that into the test, which is why you will now have the dash A or the dash T at the end of whatever you are. ENFJ is the protagonist. Now, my scores, as far as being an E, an N, an F, a J, and a T are concerned, are in that order. 56% extroverted, which is how I react to my environment. I'm sort of, at least as far as when I did this particular test 2 days ago, more outgoing than inwardly reserved sort of a thing. 70% intuitive, which is where I direct my mental energy, as opposed to a 30% sensing, I think it is. 56% feeling, which is how I make decisions and cope with emotions. Generally does go with my feeling, which I think also is part of my intuitive nature. Going with my intuitions, my gut, rather than listening to anything that my head has to say, because as I just pointed out, I got mental illness, so I'm not exactly trusting that boy, you know? We don't listen to him. 51% on judging, which is how I approach work, planning, and decisions, which as a Libra could not be more accurate to my star sign. How do I approach plans and decision making? 51%. Barely off that middle ground threshold. But in order to give me a number, something had to win. And then 63% turbulent, which is my confidence in my abilities. Yep. The strengths and weaknesses, because I've got the report here. I low-key sent it to myself on Facebook, because I've got an old profile that I haven't used since I was in like grade 9, 2009. So yeah, I just sort of send it to that so I can look at it anytime I want. Strengths. Tolerant. So we're true team players. We recognize that means listening to other people's opinions, even when they contradict our own. We admit we don't have all the answers and are often receptive to dissent as long as it remains constructive. Constructive criticism is always good, and we're generally pretty tolerant of your opinions. We are reliable. I haven't told you what it is. So the ENFJ is the protagonist. I think I mentioned that before. If not, it says it just as the first word within the tolerant bit there. So yeah, we're reliable. This one could also go on with the word loyal as its little title, as you will see in a second. But the one thing that galls protagonists the most is the idea of letting down a person or cause we believe in. If it's possible, protagonists can always be counted on to see it through. So yeah, reliable, loyal, whichever word you want to put on it. We are charismatic in charm and popularity, are qualities protagonists have in spades, which honestly surprised me, especially with the popularity one. Popular is not a word that I think I've ever associated with myself, so that's fun. But we instinctively know how to capture an audience, which my views on YouTube would disagree with. And we pick up on mood and motivations in ways that allow us to communicate with reason, emotion, passion, restraint, or whatever the situation calls for, which is a big true for me, what with being an empath. We are talented imitators and are therefore able to shift our tone and manner to reflect the needs of the audience while still maintaining our own voice. We are altruistic, and so uniting these qualities is the protagonist's unyielding desire to do good in and for their communities, be it in their own home or the global stage. Warm and selfless, protagonists genuinely believe that if they can just bring people together, they can do a world of good. Egalitarian, as I said before. And so as you're seeing a bunch of these strengths and even some of these weaknesses will point out things that I've already mentioned are part of my personality and my identity. Protagonists are also natural leaders. More than seeking authority ourselves, we often end up in leadership roles at the request of others, cheered on by our many admirers of our strong personality and positive visions, which is true. I have been told by professional actors that I've directed in short films before that I am quite talented when it comes to directing, and I should continue it. And it's always been a case of this job will pay the bills, but this job will make me happy. Because again, what would a Libra do? What else would a Libra do? Weaknesses. We are overly idealistic. So people with the protagonist personality type can be caught off guard as they find that through circumstance or nature or simply a misunderstanding, people fight against us and defy the principles we've adopted, however well-intentioned they may be. Yep. I generally put this down as a polarizing personality. It's fun. We as protagonists are more likely to feel pity for this opposition than anger, and we can earn ourselves a reputation of naivete. We can also be too selfless and bury ourselves in our hopeful promises, feeling others' problems as our own and striving hard to meet our word. Again, we're reliable, we give our word, we're going to stick to it, but that can also mean that we're too selfless. If we aren't careful, we can spread ourselves too thin, and that will leave us unable to help anyone. We can also be too sensitive. So while we are receptive to criticism, particularly that constructive stuff, as we see it as a tool for leading a better team, it is very easy for us to take it a little too much to heart and like, oh, okay, that's my fault, I'm sorry. Which my drowning in water signs birth chart already knew. Yeah. Protagonists sometimes feel problems that aren't their own, and we try to fix things that we can't, worrying if we are doing enough. We also have fluctuating self-esteem. We define our self-esteem by whether we're able to live up to our ideals, and sometimes ask for criticism more out of an insecurity than out of confidence, as we are always wondering what we could be doing better. If we fail to meet a goal or help someone that we've said we'd help, that self-confidence drops like a sack of bricks. We also struggle to make tough decisions. So if we're caught between a rock and a hard place, we can be stricken with paralysis and imagine all the consequences of our actions, especially if those consequences are egalitarian and humanitarian and all those other good things, which as a Libra strikes a little bit too close to home. So that's my MBTI, my Myers-Briggs test. I don't actually know what the I stands for, if I'm being completely honest. My big five, I've literally just got percentages here because they don't have fun little personality types. They could very well if they wanted to, but they don't. 63% openness to experience, 33% conscientiousness, 58% extroversion, which is very close to the Myers-Briggs' 56%. So that feels accurate. 64% agreeableness, quite an agreeable person. Thank you. I'd like to think so too. And 68% neuroticism, which, for whatever reason, the site that I was on listed it as natural reactions. I feel like because people were getting high scores in neuroticism, I mean, like, but I'm not neurotic. Well, actually, kinda are. And then I literally just before filming did a bird test, a DISC test. So DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. And if we were to assign birds to them, purely out of the symbolism that these birds have had in human history, dominance would be an eagle, influence would be a peacock or a parrot. Either way, the most colourful one out of the four. Steadiness would be a dove, and compliance would be an owl. This personality test looks more at your personality at work, especially in regards to leadership. So if you are more of a result-oriented person, you are going to be either an eagle or an owl. And if you are more of a people-oriented person, and the people being your customers and your team, then you are going to either be a peacock/parrot or a dove. If you are extroverted, you are more likely to be an eagle or a peacock, and if you're introverted, dove and owl. And that's how you get the four types. It's like an X-Y axis of people and results and introverted, extroverted. Now, going off the other ones, a natural leader, kind of a more of a tendency to extroversion. You could safely assume that I would have been an eagle, but apparently according to the test I did, I actually got a higher score for being an owl, which is still on that same side of being result-oriented, which I am, very much am. When I'm at work, I'm there to get a job done. Let's just get it done. Let's get those results so I can cash the check and go home. But I think for it was more looking at when I'm at work, if I have the possibility of doing a task on my own, then I will. I think this leads very heavily into the fact of I'm constantly saying that I'm ambiverted. So yeah, that's all I've got for this video. There is a ton more I could talk about, but we're getting on in time. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well. You can be notified when I upload new videos. I will try to leave links down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And until next time, guys, keep your heads screwed on.